Hello, my name's Nigel Thorne and I'm concerned about the Welsh Government's demonisation of those who do not collude in a delusion. This demonisation is rooted in Stonewall's definition of transphobia, which in 2016 was the fear or dislike of someone who identifies as trans. But by the end of 2017 had hardened. The fear or dislike of someone based on the fact they are trans, including the denial, refusal to accept their gender identity. At that point, the Stonewall position became that telling the truth was hate speech. In June 2020, Jeremy Miles posted a Facebook video where he opened up about his experiences of homophobia in his youth. In the video, Miles stated that trans people are still fighting for basic rights.
It's really odd to be marking Pride Month apart rather than together. As a gay man, I feel part of a welcoming and inclusive LGBT plus community in Wales. And Pride is an opportunity for us all to come together to celebrate, and I think in a spirit of mutual support still. As a gay man, I love being part of a celebration with gay men and women 20 years older than me who campaigned for the rights, which mean that we can walk hand in hand in the streets today, and surrounded by people 20 years younger than me, many of whom are leading lives of inclusion and acceptance that I would have loved to be living in my own 20s. But many people in our community are still fighting battles. Because if you need to know why we come together as a community to stand up for ourselves and for others, just look around you. Many of the rights that I was still marching for in my youth, we've won those. And it fills me with pride and joy and hope to be able to say that. But our trans friends are still denied basic rights.
In truth, trans people have the same rights as everyone else, and gender reassignment is a protected characteristic in the Equality Act of 2010. Although it is not often stated what rights trans people are campaigning for, Jay Stewart, founder and head of the highly influential charity Gendered Intelligence, is clear. In a TED Talk titled, "We are living on the cusp of a gender revolution," Stewart claimed that trans people's human rights should be based not on biology, but on the idea of pursuing that which they wish to become.
Our human rights should not be based upon that which is biologically determined. Our human rights should be based on the idea of pursuing that which we wish to become. It's about the freedom to act that is important in terms of gaining our human rights, gaining equality in society. And it's this idea of becoming what it is that we wish to become that I have found incredibly empowering and really useful in thinking about my own gender identity and the work that we do.
This claim for rights puts an obligation on everyone else in society to deny the evidence of their own senses, to deny the truth, and to affirm a lie. Evidently, Stewart's claim is not a human right. It is a demand. Stewart was inspired to transition through the writings of Judith Butler. The Welsh Government demonise those who tell the truth.
The following message contains distressing scenes based on hate crimes prosecuted in Wales. Actors have been used and details changed to protect the victims.
Oi! You're a Brook, you know?
Hate hurts everyone.
A true story that may have inspired that clip was that of police community support officer Connor Friel, a trans-identified female based in Mould. In an interview, Friel stated, "We'll just keep talking about diversity until we don't need to talk about diversity anymore. We just need to change people's perceptions of what normal is and what different is until we're all just integrated." PCSO Friel was a victim of a hate crime. His tormentor was a 19-year-old male with Asperger's syndrome, a condition forming part of the autistic spectrum, characterized by literal thinking and difficulties understanding and responding to social cues. Declan Armstrong twice shouted, "Is it a boy or is it a girl?" And Friel was left upset and embarrassed. Armstrong was convicted of using abusive or insulting words to cause harassment. According to Judge Roger Lowe, the public order offence was uplifted to medium level due to its transphobic nature. He was put under nighttime curfew and ordered to pay £590, including £200 compensation to Friel. The Crown Prosecution Service called the incident a hate crime. Linda Buchan, consultant clinical psychologist and a director of Axia ASD, a provider of diagnostic and support services to people with autism spectrum disorders across the UK and Europe, said, "Autistic people are involuntarily very honest, which can be perceived as being blunt or rude, when actually they're just trying to tell the truth." Under the guise of transgender inclusion, the Welsh Government is pushing queer theory into Welsh schools as part of a whole school approach. As specified on a Cardiff University website, children will not be taught that sex is biological and that gender is a social construct, as a previous generation was taught. Instead, following the writings of Judith Butler, children will be taught that gender is an identity and that sex is something that is attributed to them. Jeremy Miles concedes that teachers need training, and there are many queer theory influenced training providers available.
Schools are keen to have clear and robust guidance and training as well, actually, to support trans children and young people.
Stonewall provide training. Their head of trans inclusion, Kieran Medcalf, has said, "Bodies are not inherently male or female. They're just their bodies." Brook provide training. Their RSE training was produced in partnership with the Open University and Cardiff University. Brook tell children gender refers to the way in which a person feels and thinks about themselves and the way they dress, speak or move. This can be different to the sex they were given at birth. The way you feel about your gender is called your gender identity. Just Like Us provide training. In March 2017, Just Like Us launched in Wales at an event sponsored by Kirsty Williams, then Education Minister.
So I'd ask you to join in welcoming Kat and Natalie.
So Catherine is part of a group who visits schools to challenge discrimination and encourage equality.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here.
And they've come to the Senedd to launch their work in Wales with the full support of the Education Secretary.
What we know is that unless children feel that they're in a safe environment, in a nurturing environment, that we can't expect them to learn. So getting children's well-being right gives them the best chance they have of doing well in school and fulfilling their potential.
And there are already some exciting projects. Charlie and Lily are part of a group at a Cardiff Comprehensive promoting more open conversations.
Yeah, it's basically a place in our school, it's like a safe space where members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual and transgender community can come and they can feel safe, but at the same time allies and people who support them can come and just show their support.
It's been quite supporting actually, because I've seen the change in people's opinions about different certain things, and it's quite cool to see how the attitude changed towards sexual interactions and all that.
The Welsh Government is currently refreshing guidance given to schools on bullying, and they hope with the help of charities like this, everyone will feel safe and supported in school. Megan Boot, ITV News.
In 2023, Gemma Evans, a health and well-being teacher at Ysgol Green Hill, Tenby, won the LGBT+ Inclusive Teacher of the Year award. In her acceptance speech, Mrs. Evans said, "We find ourselves in an extremely lucky position living in Wales, as we are introducing a new curriculum that has diversity as a golden thread running through all subject areas to ensure our learners become ethically informed citizens."
Trans people are loved. Trans people are loved.
Trans people are loved. Trans people, you are so loved.
Trans people are loved.
Trans people are loved.
Trans people are loved.
Trans people are so loved.
Trans people are loved.
Trans people are loved.
Trans people are loved.
Trans people are loved. Make love the loudest voice.
Trans people are loved!
Hit it, Fergie.
All the time, always, now and forever!
Just Like Us promote School Diversity Week and provide lesson packs for schools. Lesson packs have included maths problems as part of this whole school approach. For example, problem 1. Harley, who uses they, them, their pronouns to refer to themselves, has volunteered to give bottles of water to runners of a marathon. They have 15 bottles of water, but there are a total of 25 runners in the marathon. How many more bottles of water does Harley need to buy? Just Like Us provide ambassadors to go into schools, and one of their ambassadors is trans man Kenny Ethan Jones. Ethan Jones was invited to a select committee meeting in Parliament on 9th of February 2021.
Intersectional approach is important, and also kind of having clear definitive lines of what is actually hate speech is also important so that we can hold people accountable.
Okay, so interestingly, this intersectionality, so when you have, I don't know, a clash of rights as women, for some reason, not understandable to myself, the extreme of feminists take exception to the trans lobby or the issues and say that their rights are being trampled on by trans rights. And this has turned into quite a heated discussion and very upsetting discussion for everyone. I'm upset as a feminist and a trans supporter. I'm upset by this conflict. So where does freedom of expression lie there? Because women will argue, I should be free to say that trans women are not women. And I don't personally agree with that, but where is the freedom of speech issue? Could you go to Kenny first, please?
Yeah, sure. Well, you know, I think this issue needs to be approached almost definitely, because trans women are just they face so much more abuse in real life and online, and it's from transcritical people. And the thing is, it's trans women and women, cisgendered women, want the same thing. They want safe spaces. The whole point that people that are against trans people are making is that trans women aren't women, and they are. And so what we need to move to is making a community and trying to find a space in which we can both align. And so, that's all I have to add on that so far.
Just Like Us promote the controversial No Outsiders programme, and they've recently been awarded a grant of more than £400,000 to transform its Pride Groups programme, a national network of lunchtime or after-school clubs in secondary schools that provide safe spaces for LGBT plus and ally young people to meet, learn and get support. These will be places where a child's gender identity will be affirmed. In the 2022 to 2023 annual report from the Children's Commissioner for Wales, Rocco Cifuentes wrote, "Gender identity services for children in Wales are commissioned from NHS England. The recently published interim service specification for this service is highly concerning and is contrary to children's human rights, including Article 24, the right to the highest standard of healthcare. The NHS England service specification states that children will only have access to puberty-suppressing treatment if they commit to clinical research participation. Restrictions should be in place on support for social transition unless approved clinically. This is highly concerning, and it is unclear whether such a requirement could be legal and constitute free and informed consent. The Welsh Government LGBTQ+ Action Plan for Wales sets out to make Wales the most LGBTQ+ friendly nation in Europe. The current service provided in England, but for Welsh children too, appears to be at odds with the Welsh Government's LGBTQ+ Action Plan. The Commissioner's recommendation is that the Welsh Government should expedite work committed to in the LGBTQ+ Action Plan on exploring a Welsh gender service for children and young people to replace reliance on commissioning services from NHS England. Senedd member Laura Ann Jones has concerns.
I'm also very concerned that the Children's Commissioner in this report has called the Welsh Government to expedite the work on creating a Welsh gender service for children and young people. I find it very concerning when there's a myriad of pressing issues facing Welsh children and the failures over the last 2 decades that this is viewed as a priority. Given Welsh Labour's stance on this sensitive topic, I personally would hope that this area is not devolved to the Senedd, and it's also not realistic to expect it to be. It is also concerning to me that the Children's Commissioner and this Welsh Government believe that children under 18 should be put on the road to life-changing medication and irreversible surgery at such a tender age. We need to remember these are children and they need to be protected and treated as such, and this is something I would expect from a Children's Commissioner. We should also respect parents' desire to be involved, as they often know what's best for their children, and it's quite clear that the Commission and the Welsh Government would rather bypass concerned parents. It is high time there was focus on many pressing issues and needs of children instead of trying to promote gender ideology in Wales. Thank you.
Many people are concerned that pushing social affirmation and the affirmation model of healthcare contravenes children's rights because it is colluding with the delusion that will be detrimental to the child's long-term health. There is no reference to transition regret in the LGBTQ+ Action Plan.
You and the other 3 gender therapists I've seen are, in my opinion, harmful charlatans, effectively.
Why?
Because you made me infertile. I mean, you put me on a path, not you specifically, but the first gender therapist I saw. It would have been any of you at that time. Just so happened to be that person. Put me on this path. It couldn't have possibly helped me. And didn't help the actual issue, which was the fact that, I don't even know. I don't know if we know what it is, but some sort of mental illness. And they don't care. The 3 gender therapists, they don't care. They don't think about me. They're doing their own thing. They're hurting other people now. They've moved on to other people. And you will too.
Well, I do care, actually. I mean, I always care about what's going on. That's why I do this.
Yeah, I don't think you're necessarily intentionally evil, but I do think you're evil.
If mental illness...
I mean, look, you're dealing with people who have very complex issues, and most of them are ignored. And the only one that's focused on, in my experience, is this gender thing, if I go to a gender therapist. And I'm pretty convinced that there is no such thing as any of this. It's just all a mental illness. There is no such thing as a trans person. I'm entirely convinced of that at this point. None of them are real. And some of them are able to live in that delusion for their life, and they're able to enjoy that, and some aren't. You, the 3 other gender therapists, are just playing pretend. You don't know what you're doing. You have no clue what you're doing. And I know you don't. Because everyone I've talked to doesn't even know about, they haven't read the science. You haven't read the science. You have no clue what you're talking about. You know, and I think taking up a position of trust where you are dealing with mentally ill people and then sending them down a path of delusion and sterilization, health issues, I think that's abusive. I think that's just about as bad as anything else you could possibly do. You may as well be murdering people as far as I'm concerned, because you're taking their whole lives away. Their whole lives. And many people aren't as thoughtful as I am, and so they don't question it as quickly as I did, or intensely as I did. And so it takes them 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years. I've seen people not question until they were in 7 years. 7 years. You don't think they had surgeries done at 7 years? Of course they did. There's no way back for them. To think that a year of therapy and someone's supposed to figure out these things, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And most people don't even have a year of therapy. I elected to go to therapy. I didn't have to. And it didn't help. I did more than anyone else, and it didn't help. Let me ask you a question. If a schizophrenic person were to come to you, do you deal with schizophrenic people at all? And they have delusions, no? They have delusions, right? So what do you do when they're telling you about their delusion? Do you let them stew in it for years?
We talk about different ways, and usually when somebody is in delusions and they're having a life, they go to a higher level care. That's not like my specialty.
Okay, so you don't deal with people who have delusions, and yet you're talking to trans people who are delusional.
No, I do talk to people with delusions.
Okay.
But they're living in a state of delusion all the time. I'm probably going to find them a higher level of care.
Okay.
Maybe it's what we should do for you. If you feel that I'm not confident, if you feel that I'm not helping you, where you can get better.
Well, what I'm asking is, what do you do for these people who are delusional?
There's different things. I can't give you a straight answer because each person is unique in how they come to the table. It depends on what kind of a delusion they're having. There's different delusions.
Like, for instance, thinking you're a woman when you're a man?
So I don't consider that a
How do you not consider that a delusion? How exactly?
I'm not going to do this because I'm not going to have that conversation.
Why?
Because you're trying to get me to say something that I'm not going to, and I'm not going to argue. If you think I'm incompetent,
I think that's heartless, honestly, because I am delusional, and you're not going to help.
No, I've helped, and I will help, and I'll continue because I do care for you. But I understand that today you're really having a bad day, and I'm very sorry about that.
Bad day? I've had 2 bad fucking years because you ruined me.
No, I have not.
It's your fault. It's all 4 of you. It's this whole profession. It's this whole thing. I am delusional, and you're not helping. And you're not treating me like I am. And you just said it yourself. I don't consider it a delusion. I mean,
I've worked with enough people who aren't having a delusion, who have very healthy lives, who have transitioned and have over 15 years behind them, and they are doing very well. And I'm very sorry this is a big thing for you, but I also know that it is not everybody's story.
there are just as many people who are hurt by it.
But this conversation is going around in circles because you are telling me something, and you're telling me your thoughts and your beliefs, and I understand that you're really hurt by what happened, but I can't change what somebody else.
You think I'm hurt? Ah! Oh, shit! Fucking hurt!
Those parents who believe that people should not collude with a child's delusion may wish to support Public Child Protection Wales. Links are included below.